us hunger, death consumed. Greetings and welcome back to the Tournament of the Living Dead. I'm Flesh Wound Dan, joined by producer Todd.
Good evening.
Pugs Dread.
Namaste. Howdy.
And our special guest, zombie expert, Chris McGibbon.
What's up?
There you go. Sounds excited. So, before we get into our new entry, Pugs, step and fetch.
What we do for our tournaments is rate and review a film, and then at the end of the episode, we'll add that movie to a list compiled from our previous episodes. And then we will vote to eliminate one of those films off the list, leaving us with our 3 zombie films, aka our 3 survivors. Then those 3 final survivors will go up against a new zombie film every episode until we reach day 13. And when we get to that point, we will pick one of the 3 survivors as our Tournament of the Living Dead champion. So now that that's out of the way, Todd, tell us our previous eliminations and whatever the hell else is on the menu.
Thank you, Pugs. On the menu tonight, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things will be joining Lucio Fulci's Zombie, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and Return of the Living Dead for competition tonight. Eliminated thus far, Premoto's Fallen Angel. So, Dan, why don't you tell us about Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things?
Absolutely. And if you didn't get the modern lingo, that meant go Pugs. I just, Anyway.
I don't want any more lashes, please.
Anyways, on to Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, the 1972 film from director Bob Clark and, of course, writer Alan Ormsby, and star in many things. So led by Alan, a mean-spirited director, a theater troupe travels by boat to a small island for buried criminals. Using a grimoire, Alan begins a seance to raise the dead. The group finds more than they bargained for when the dead return from their graves, forcing the troupe to take refuge in an old, abandoned caretaker's house. Can they stay put until daylight against the undead onslaught, or do they flee into the pitch black night? Will anyone survive? All right, so Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Chris, go for it. What's your history with this movie? Because I don't remember if we ever talked about this one back in the day.
Oh, I've definitely talked to Chris about this one.
So. Yeah, we've definitely had conversations about it. I probably very similar to anyone else. I saw it on VHS, expecting something very different than what I ended up with. I remember being very not interested in the first hour of this movie at the tender young age of 7 and wondering where the fuck all the zombie stuff was. And then the zombie stuff happened and I was very happy. And then the movie ended and I wasn't so happy anymore. So it took a while for me to come around to this one. It was a couple of different viewings, a couple of people that I talked to that really liked it. And, kind of finding out about its production history, the low budget nature. The reason that it takes an hour for the movie to get going, of course, is because they had no money. So it was much cheaper to shoot, with just the core cast group as opposed to, a couple dozen extra zombies that were all in makeup and everything. So I think all the zombie stuff was shot first or last on the production. I want to say it was first. I don't remember specifically, and they only shot 2 days. And then the rest of the shoot was the other stuff. So, and at one point the zombies went on strike. So they opted not to do anything. Yeah, they were pissed off. It had to have been longer than 2 days, maybe, because they were pissed off that they were only getting meatball sandwiches for lunch or dinner or something like that. So maybe it was a couple of days. I don't know. But they were mostly hippies and stoners and homeless people. And I think Alan Ormsby even said like a couple of them they kind of just found chilling in the park and said, hey, do you want to make a couple, you want us to get you lunch and you can be, getting makeup and be in a movie. So it's pretty crazy and wild to think that all these zombies who were, pretty decent zombies, I would say, were all just a bunch of folks chilling at the park. We're like, hey,
junkies all hopped out.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So, and I think the costume designer or the head costume designer was the zombie that has the one big ping pong eyeball. And I guess during his process where they were doing a mold of his face. Some of the plaster got stuck, and his revenge towards Alan Ormsby, who also did the special effects in the film, was he stuck him in those pants, and that was his revenge against Alan, was giving him those outrageously terrible striped pants to wear for the whole movie. So good for him. But yeah, this is a fun one. I like this one a lot. I like the atmosphere. I appreciate now that it's a slow burn, because even though it is a slower moving film, there is a sense of dread through it kind of throughout the whole thing. It does sort of feel like at any moment something's going to happen. You're not really sure what at some point, because it does get a little on the weird side once they kind of reveal the whole thing was a gag and they decide to bring a corpse home and have a wedding for it. And I'm like, wow, these people are all sober and they're running along with this. So, and then, the zombies do show up, and it becomes a shorter Night of the Living Dead, I love the zombies in this. I think it's very creepy, and it's got some some great scenes. I still stand by the last 20 minutes of this movie are better than most modern zombie films. So, yeah.
Just a little bit. I wanted to talk briefly about the director, Bob Clark, who his career is interesting because he has stone cold classics in multiple genres with Porky.
Baby Genius, obviously. Baby Genius.
Well, I wasn't going to go with that one. But Porky's, Christmas Story, which gets an entire 24 hours each year that it runs. Black Christmas.
You should also get 24 hours.
Right? Come on, Shutter.
Which is on par with Halloween, if not better, in my opinion. And Death Dream, a zombie movie of sorts, but a classic Monkey's Paw adaptation. So it's always interesting to go back and see the early work. I don't know if looking at Children Shouldn't Play at Dead Things, if you're a first-time watch, if you're going to, see this guy as the person who would go on to make something like Black Christmas. But I think Chris is right. The last 20 minutes is really, really good. It is a movie, I'll be honest, as I rewatch it over the years, it's far from perfect. The first 30 minutes is basically a build up to a prank and establishing that Alan's an asshole. And some of the other characters, there's not a lot of people to root for in this movie for me. And the snarky dialogue and humor, it's not going to hit for everybody. The last 20 minutes is very Night of the Living Dead, except these zombies dupe them into leaving the cabin. But I know it was conceived as a sort of satirical version of Night of the Living Dead, which of course came out 4 years earlier. I enjoy it, but I don't know. This one, not as much as I used to. There's no real clear character motivations in this. It's like they're a theater troupe, but they don't really seem to be doing anything in that arena. And I don't know, just not enough character development for me, but it does pick up quite a bit in the last 20 minutes. And considering that they were working for, a nothing budget, essentially, I think it was shot for under 60,000 and lots of stealing stuff to basically make it work. I think 11 days shoot when it wasn't shut down. Alan Ormsby doing self-taught special effects. He didn't go to school for this or anything. I'd say the zombies look pretty damn good. But I don't know. This one, I can't call this one a classic as much as I love Bob Clark, but it's a solid early effort if you can just look at the last 20, 25 minutes or so.
Only Dan would walk into a movie called Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things looking for character development.
I did. Maybe I'm just getting older and I appreciate that more. But one quick note: the Ted B. Michael
plot. All you youngsters in your fucking plot. Back in our days when we watched movies, plot was you had a little bit in there, but it was about the killing and the death. Now
Night of the Living Dead has very memorable characters.
It does, but I'm just saying, you put too much stock in plot. There's more to just a plot to a movie.
Yeah, well, I still need to like the characters if you're going to spend that much time with them. And I don't know, nobody really stands out here.
Root for the zombies.
Choose a team.
somebody that I had the pleasure of knowing a little bit back in my chiller days. Ted B. Michaels production company actually initially put this out in the US and it failed because he didn't put a lot of money into it. But it kind of has that set Bob Clark up as kind of a Canadian horror icon because Quadrant Films bought this in Canada and they did pump some advertising money and it became a pretty big hit. And that's what led to him doing Death Dream. So, like I said, this one's kind of a mixed bag, but certainly led to bigger and better things. I'm not a diehard fan of it, but Pugs, how about you? I know I've never talked to you about this one.
Before Pug starts, it also doesn't help that this movie had like 4 different titles when it came out.
Yeah,
because it was released as Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Things from the Grave, Zreeks, whatever the fuck that title's supposed to mean. And
I forgot that.
Revenge of the Living Dead was another title too. So there's actually a really cool poster. It's on a double bill or something where it's called Things from the Grave, and it has the one-eyed looking zombie reaching through the poster. It's actually one of my favorite art pieces for the film that's very hard to come by, but that could have really attributed to its lack of being able to find an audience back in the day in the US. So
yeah. Pugs, first time watch for you? You've never brought it up before.
Second or third, I don't remember, but
okay.
I'm gonna agree with you guys on like there's a certain section in the movie that's like, damn, this is amazing. But it took a while to get there, and like I think this is why I don't revisit it that often. I don't really bring it up that often. It's hard to remember, except those couple of fucking solid gore moments and finding out that they were like homeless people and just people off the street. That's wild. That's they scored on that. Yeah, I really did enjoy the prank. I thought that was funny, and then bringing a dead thing home. I'm all about that, but we'll get into that stuff later. Yeah, this is just okay. I'm not gonna champion this movie and say it's a must see, but I do love Bob Clark, so you got to start somewhere. It's just all right.
Okay. Todd, who doesn't care about plot.
No, I don't put everything into the plot of a movie. There's more.
Zombies are out of the plots. Sure. That's what he's trying to say.
There you go. This is one like definitely in my youth. The title that was, I gotta see, what this is all about. So even as a kid, it didn't live up to that, like the title of what my mind was putting together was going to happen. But it was still, I still have fun watching it. But it really is in anticipation of that last 20 minutes, really. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one, like, I know there's a nostalgia thing to it. So it's hard for me to really recommend. Like, this isn't a title. I'm someone who's like, oh, give me some, zombie movies that are must see. This is one when you've dug in the catalog and you want to see something different. Oh, from the director of Black Christmas, but it's not like a beginner title. I'll say it like that. I think once you like you really are into the genre and you really want to dig in, this is one I'd recommend at that point. Do you remember the remake, Chris, that was supposed to happen?
There's been a couple remakes. There was one.
Bob. That's the one.
There was one Bob Clark was producing.
Tom
and then
Savini.
Tom Savini wasn't attached to that one. That one was a whole different ballgame. Unfortunately, the accident that took Bob Clark's life, and as well as the son's, was what killed that project. Then there was another remake being planned with Tom Savini, and then the last I heard, there was a third remake that someone was trying to get off the ground that supposedly they started filming without permission, and they just kind of figured they'd ask for forgiveness later. And I believe that got shut down. It was the movie's
you
controlled
just call it a fan film.
Yeah, well, the movie's controlled by one entity. It's not owned by a studio. It's owned by one of the producers. So instead of embracing that project with open arms and going, oh yeah, I'll give you permission, he instead got mad and said, no, if you do this, I'll sue you because you didn't ask my permission. So they shut
I'm
that
asking
one down.
now, asshole.
Yeah.
I feel like you could just retitle it and it
well, it was the same. It was the same plot. I mean, it was about it was actually I want to say it was a social media influencer brought his crew out to an island to try to raise the dead, and they updated the story,
Logan
And the
Paul.
whole thing was it was going to be a prank, but the prank backfires. During the prank is when the zombies were supposed to show up. And so instead of the last 20 minutes, it's about the midway point of the film. This is what I heard. And then the rest of the movie is the characters trying to get back to the house with their safety, and only a handful of them making it back, only to realize they're not as safe as they thought. So something like that. That's what I remember hearing the plot was. But and I want to say they shot maybe a week or so before they got shut down, because I think the guy who was making it went on social media, kind of made some rants and raves, and then promptly took them down when people were like, yeah, you got shut down because you didn't have the rights, so like you can't really complain. But I haven't heard anything since. But this movie, honestly, I think this movie's perfect for like if it's like 2:00 in the morning and you're having trouble sleeping, and it's that weird. No, I'm not saying that disrespectfully. It's that weird, like, you know, when you were a kid and you couldn't get to sleep, and there was something on TV that was really late, and you were kind of in and out, and you don't really remember it, but you remember it freaking you out. That's where I feel like this movie really shines, when you're in kind of like a half awake, half asleep state, where like parts of it are really going to stand out to you because you're just kind of you're allowing your brain to just sort of, you know, absorb what's happening in front of you versus like trying to overthink it. So it just it has that vibe of a late night horror host movie or something you'd watch at a drive-in at like 2 a.m. You know, where you're kind of like, you know, you're at an all-night marathon or something, and it's movie number 4, and you're just trying to stay awake so you can watch it. But it has that nightmarish quality to it that I think in that type of environment would really elevate it. But
it kind of at times it feels like almost like an adult Scooby-Doo kind of vibe to it too, that it worked for me better, I think, back then. I don't know, just this is one of those ones I watch again, and I can see where this is a good candidate to be remade, because I think you could improve upon it. And this Tom Savini,
well, I want that Logan Paul one. Just Blair Witch that shit.
Well, you can see the Tom Savini Indiegogo videos still on YouTube, so you can kind of see, maybe get some bits and pieces of what he might have had planned for it. But
I'd love for him to get behind the camera again. I really would.
Yeah. Were you there, Pugs, at the Weekend of Horrors that the one and only convention appearance Bob Clark did?
I don't believe.
I believe it was Weekend of Horrors 2007. It may have been 6. It wasn't. It was a few months before the accident, so it was probably early. But I
think and he was there. I just didn't get to. I didn't get to see him.
Because he did have a son there too. So, because they were both producing the film, if I remember correctly. Only thing I remember about it, I don't remember, were they going to have rapping zombies?
That was the rumors that there was going to be rapping zombies in the remake, and I just went, man, that car accident took out more than you'll ever know. But
someone traveled back in time to prevent that shit.
I'm really disappointed that Bob Clark's not with us, mostly because I feel like that all 3 of his horror movies up until the last like 15 years really never got their just due. Like, I really feel like Black Christmas is finally it's been remade twice, questionably both times, but it's been remade twice, so it's obviously marketable enough for somebody where they felt like they could use the title to make some money. It's got a beautiful 4K edition out now that, you know, looks and sounds amazing. I mean, Death Dream just got a wonderful 4K from Blue Underground, and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things has a 4K. Like, all 3 of his horror films are in 4K and look great, and people are celebrating them and loving them. And it's a genre I really wish he had stuck in. And I also wish he was around to see this, because I think it took a really long time for all 3 of these movies to really find a core audience that, you know, elevates them to the status they are now. More so Death Dream and Black Christmas than this one. But, I mean, Black Christmas especially, I mean, people are now finally talking about it. There was years where you would like, you ever heard of Black Christmas? And they're like, what the fuck is that? You know, like
Kwanzaa? No, the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Kwanzaa.
Well, that was the big thing. Like, I think John Saxon told the story. Like, people were concerned about the title because some territories they think it was about a black family at Christmas. That was the big thing with that movie, believe it or not.
All 3 of his horror films. Yeah. All three of his horror films, they all were released with different titles in their theatrical runs. I mean, it's wild to consider that out of the director's movies, not one of them got released only with its original title. They all got slapped with new titles. So,
all right. Well,
I have a Death Dream thing that I filmed, and that one in particular took a long time because 20 years ago, longer, when I was a kid, nobody talked about it, and I consider that a masterpiece. But yeah.
But all right, I think it's time we rate this one. So, Chris, where are you at? We'll let you go first.
it's a solid 3.5. It's a slow moving film, which is not going to work for a lot of people. It's certainly not going to work for anyone under the age of 18 today. Hell, in their 20s, it's probably not going to work. The attention span just is not there for modern audiences. So this one's going to fail pretty much before it even gets a chance to get moving. For like a younger audience, I should say. But younger audiences, I don't think are going to be watching this. But if someone's parent shows it to them and they're not ready for something like this, it could fall completely flat instead of just kind of falling somewhat flat. Because I feel like once you get to that last 20 minutes, it's a good enough payoff that it's really worth the wait. But I have shown this to people who have really begrudged that first hour just to get to that 20 minutes, and so it's not one that I can comfortably say would work for everybody. So about a 3.5, because it is above average in my book. I mean, it has some great scenes that make it stand out. So
All right.
Okay.
Bugs?
I am a 2 out of 5.
All right. I'm a 2.5 out of 5, specifically because yes, it's a fantastic final act, really entertaining, but little on the weak side leading up. But Todd,
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. I'm a 2.5 on this one. I mean, I know a lot of it's nostalgia based. I borderline 3. I'm like right in the middle, but 2.5 is what I'm gonna go. Just for purposes of, I think it's you mentioned it's gonna be hard for newer. I don't even think just young people. I think people in general that are new to it, it might be a little sluggish just overall. So yeah.
I think if you get somebody who's into 70s cinema or 70s horror, they're going to appreciate it.
Yeah, you kind of got to know what they're into going into it.
Because those people have the patience of Jude. So
yeah, you should see it once. Like if you are a zombie fan, it's unique. So definitely
You got to
see
complete Bob Clark's catalog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's watching Blonde and Blonder on this show, so we'll just maybe we'll see his horror catalog.
If you're a completist.
Have you watched both Baby Geniuses, Pugs?
I didn't know there was 2.
Ignorance is bliss in that, Pugs. Forget that there's 2, okay?
Okay.
All right. So up for elimination, we have Lucio Fulci's Zombie. We have Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, Return of the Living Dead, and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Pugs, what? Oh no, sorry, Chris. What will you be eliminating? I know Pugs is going to eliminate.
Well, from that lineup, I mean, it has to be Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. I mean, there's no. I mean, again, I'll stand by that. It's a great little movie if you know what you're in for. But even with that in mind, it may not work. I mean, some people don't care about that last 20 minutes because they had to burn that hour to get to it. So I mean, it could go either way. But yeah, I mean, the other 3 are much stronger overall, in my opinion. So they got to stay.
Okay.
I'm going to eliminate Return of the Living Dead. I like this movie. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things way more than Return of the Living Dead. Way more.
Wow.
I knew that was coming. That's why I went to Chris first.
Well, Pugs is not going to get his way tonight. I choose to eliminate Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Again, nothing against it. It is unique and you should watch it, but it's not in the league of these other movies. Todd.
Yeah. Well, I got to go with Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things on this also. It's going to be my vote. So there we go. Sorry, Pugs. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things has been eliminated. leaving us with Zombie, Scout's Guide, and Return of the Living Dead. So that's it for tonight's episode.
I feel like Pugs, if we had Day of the Dead 2 Contagium, he would still vote that over Return of the Living Dead.
No, he's not an idiot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
He might.
But well, you know, we'll see. Maybe we'll have to do a head-to-head and throw Forest of the Dead in there.
Well, I'm the one who hated Forest of the Dead. I don't even. You know what the stupid part about that movie is? I don't remember a thing about it. I just remember how much I hated it.
Well, surprise, Crit. No, I'm kidding. Next week.
Run in.
Waterboarding he'd vote for over Return of the Living Dead. And I don't get you, Pugs, but we will see. It's going to get hot going forward. So we'll see you next time on Tournament of the Living Dead.
Good evening.
Mr. Chris.
Say goodbye, Chris.
Oh, bye. What the fuck?
I'll see you in Disneyland.
I didn't hear anyone else.